Who's got it better than us?
Nobody!
Robert is being chased, thrown on the run, and it is caught. Touchdown, Keenan Allen. What a great...
My goal is not to break you. My goal is to make you harder to break.
Comes back. Number 6.
Huge sack by Joey Bosa.
Touchdown! 90-yard touchdown!
Off at the 8-yard line by Derwin James.
Sets his speed, takes a shot downfield, has Knighton. Caught! Touchdown! Chargers!
Boys, grab your lunch boxes and go attack this game with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind.
What is going on, Bold fam? We are 1 week removed from the 2026 NFL Draft, and you are joined with Jack, Andy, and Alistair as we, as Thunder Down Under, break down the 2026 Chargers draft class. Gentlemen, how are we both doing today?
Oh, fantastic. Alistair and I were talking just before you got into the waiting room, Andy, that this is easily one of our most favourite shows to do throughout the year. Until, obviously, we win a playoff game, I think that will be easily one of our most favourite shows. But no, super excited to break down these picks with you both. It's a gorgeous day here. I've had a great morning. Let's get going, fellas.
Yes, we've got good Jack on the show today, listeners. He's pumped. He's got a new setup, new microphone, new chair, and we've got 8 new players to talk about. For me, this is a bittersweet moment. It's the end of 3.5 months of All 22 review. Looking forward to a bit of a break, but not before we unpack some new players and do a bit of knifey spoony as well, Andy.
So exciting to have 8 to break down when we entered the weekend with 5. And
good point.
All of the little Easter eggs and the sub-themes throughout the draft weekend, it's really exciting to be a Chargers fan heading into this season, like every season. But Jack, I got to say, man, not to forecast too much, but the episode where Chargers have won a playoff game, we might actually do one more than Mike McDaniel and keep to our word and do the show without a shirt on. But yeah, look, this is so fun to welcome these guys to the team and to all the tropes and everything that you've heard and the conflicting theories. You kind of, at the end of the weekend, and you've got your draft hall. It's a bit like Monty Burns running the monkeys in the factory writing Charles Dickens. It was the best of drafts. It was the blurst of drafts. You've got every kind of opinion from the sun to the moon. But guys, thanks for joining us. Yeah, we do love doing this show. Please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. And for the guys listening, Jack has prepared some incredible visuals for today. So you'll still get a lot in the audio, but if you get the chance, hop over. We'll break down all the chapters. And if you want to see some cool cut-ups of whichever draft pick you're interested in, hop onto the YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to that too. So Jack, I guess without any further ado, I will throw it into your creative genius hands.
Indeed. And if there are any long-time listeners and that are followers of our Twitter account, you can probably remember when I was living in Melbourne and Mike Williams caught that touchdown for the 2-point conversion to beat the Chiefs. There's actually probably footage up somewhere of me ripping my shirt off and screaming like an absolute madman. So, as Andy said, we follow through on our promises. And who knows, Mike McDaniel may have taken his shirt off. He may still take his shirt off, but who knows? Yeah, awesome. Let's go, guys. So, what I have done for those who are listening is, as Andy said, jump on. I have prepared little visuals for us. ChatGPT does some amazing things now. But what I've also got is our little intro music that I do for our draft picks. And when it gets time, I've actually got about anywhere between 4 to 8 plays of every draft pick that we might also talk about. So if you are normally an audio listener, as Andy said, it'd be awesome if you jumped onto our YouTube, as there's going to be quite a lot of good gear. Anyway. With pick 22, we picked Akheem Mesidor. So welcome, Akheem Mesidor. And then after the audio finishes, Andy, you can go for it and start our breakdown of Akheem Mesidor. But here we go.
This is a TDU severe weather warning. High-pressure system has formed off the edge in Miami and is moving rapidly towards Los Angeles. Quarterbacks are advised to seek immediate protection. The Chargers select Akheem Mesidor. Run for cover, people.
started off well. You started off very well, Jack. Yes, with the much anticipated 22nd overall pick, the Chargers select Akheem Mesidor, edge Miami, a mature prospect, 6 years of college experience, rare production statistics there, positional versatility, and he's ready to go day one. So the Chargers have gone maturity and just readiness. They've gone immediate impact to attempt to replace Adafe Owe on that edge line, join the veteran experience and tutelage of Khalil Mack, Tuli Pelotu. His contract is, up in the air after this season. So I believe it's the end of this year. It's immediate impact player. He is one of 8. Kiki, Akheem Nels Mesidor. He goes by Kiki. Grew up in Ottawa, one of 8 kids with Canadian Haitian heritage. The Canadian Haitian hybrid. You don't want to say that too many times, that's for sure. He bounced around high school after getting into football at age 8 and then going to a Gridiron Academy in Canada at 9 years old. He sort of fell in love with the school, and as he moved into high school, he bounced around. He moved to different schools to try and maximize his development and potential. So he transferred to the Royal Imperial College of Canada, which is near Buffalo, Niagara Falls area, and ended up playing against a bunch of schools from like Ohio, which is where he started to garner a little bit of interest from FBS programs. So he then transferred his senior year of high school down to Florida, Clearwater, Florida, and then committed to West Virginia after forming some strong connections with the coaching staff that included none other than the older brother of former Chargers safety Jamil Adai. And it was 2 years later that he followed Jamil down to Miami. Really interesting positional versatility that I mentioned earlier. He played predominantly as a defensive tackle at West Virginia, and it wasn't until he sort of just went where his coaches needed the most out of him. So it wasn't until he moved down to Miami and then sort of in the last collegiate season put it all together. And opposite Ruben Bain was just an absolute havoc, led that defense almost all the way, really carried Miami through to the national championship. You're getting a guy who has shorter arms. He's a little bit older, some foot injury history, but he's just relentless. Like, he makes up for those short limbs by just aggressive, ferocious hands, swatting away sort of tackles, trying to corral him. It's almost like the motor that he runs with is almost a little bit over the top because he can overcommit when he's tackling. He's launching it at runners. So it'd be nice to see him sort of stay on his feet a little bit more. But he's, like I said, he's got that maturity to just come in and learn. And he's been moved around and just does what the coaches need him to do. So an incredible person, really high character. He's known, or a cousin of his, Luigi, I believe, is known to many in the Chargers building from times at Michigan. Still couldn't find out who that Luigi character was. I hope it wasn't a plumber wearing green. But high character. They're all incredibly excited to get to work with Akheem Mesidor. Gents, jump on in. Jack, what are your thoughts? How are you feeling about the pick with how the draft board was falling at 22, where this guy sort of ranked in your wants or position of need, all that, best player available?
Yeah, I'll get to that after I sort of, there are a couple of things I sort of want to talk about. Like anything, I've left the X's and O's to Alistair and Andy, but if listeners, long-time listeners, you know me as a little bit of a creative. So what I've done is I've actually sort of compared Akheem Mesidor and the players to films, to books. I've got a weather report on each player. And I've also got sort of some best case scenarios and risk factors. So for my ones that I've got Jake Slaughter next. I'll go through all of them. But, you know, I tried to write one sentence off of everything that I could read about Mesidor. And what I got in the end was a Canadian-born, French-speaking, narcolepsy overcoming, foot surgery surviving edge rusher who plays like every snap owes him money. And I think, which was, I'm currently just about to finish holidays and I'm reading The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. And I think that Mesidor is the Count of Monte Cristo. Left for dead, foot injuries, questions about his age, perhaps. Then he obviously returns for revenge with 17 and a half tackles for loss and 12.5 sacks. It just sounds like Dantes, the guy that comes back and gets his revenge in the end. Very much like you, Andy, in terms of, what I saw, I sort of, to match the visuals there, a category 5 pressure system, violent hands, heavy QB disruption, strong edge setting wins, very much 100% effort player, I think, and maybe a little bit of concern for some structural durability, just with some of his feet. Generally speaking, what I'm thinking a best case scenario for Mesidor is sort of a Trey Hendrickson style production arc. I'm not saying him as Trey Hendrickson, but I think maybe, we get to 30 and it's when he's going to be up for his first sort of contract renewal. We could be looking at a player like Hendrickson. Hendrickson doesn't have elite traits, but he's got high motor, and I think his hands are going to be good because he's older. Relentless motor, which is what I said. And I think, as you said, Andy, he's played DT. He's got some versatility along the line. So for me, I was super happy with the pick. I think it was the best pick, and it was a position of need for us. I'm not too concerned about the older age. I think this is a win now pick. It's not a developmental pick. He's going to come in and he's going to play meaningful snaps straight away. The Count of Monte Cristo, Mesidor. Alistair, how are you feeling about this pick?
I'm feeling great, and that should have been apparent from the video I posted up on Twitter with my reaction to the pick. I don't know what Roger Goodell is doing calling this guy linebacker. He is not off the ball. He's on it, and he's the poster child for relentless motor. That's what he brings to the table. It's a bit interesting that he's got these shorter arms, Jack, and you can roll the tape whenever you're ready of some of his plays. It's only 10th percentile arm length and 24th percentile wingspan, but it doesn't actually show up for me as a problem at all in his game, and it's because he's able to string together pass rush moves quite effectively. He has been coached by Jason Taylor, he's a Pro Football Hall of Fame pass rusher. And you can just see he doesn't really leave anything out there. He's full motor all of the time and consistently causing havoc in the backfield. What you can maybe detract from the game style and the way he plays is that
looks like we're just having some connection issues, Andy. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like... okay, there we go.
And the tape's rolling?
Should cool. be. There just seems to be some technical difficulties. I'm not too sure. It's just not liking the... we'll go from there.
Yeah, I'll keep going. So what you see, though, is with the bat out of hell playing style, you do sometimes get the downside of that. So I do feel like he can be a little out of control sometimes. So his head can be down as he's rushing the passer. And what you see sometimes is, he doesn't notice what's going on all the time. So maybe the quarterback is throwing the ball quickly and Mesidor could have got his arms up but isn't looking. Or he hasn't seen that a guard's actually pulled and trapped him and all of a sudden he's blown off the ball and there's a run through the B gap. So I think Dylan Roney and the coaching staff maybe need to get him to attack a little bit more, or you just live with the downside of his playing style and the upside that it brings. One thing I want to call out, his smarts. So he plays with a lot of intelligence. And on my second watch of his tape, I was blown away by the number of times where he would stop and point to teammates about their alignment pre-snap. So this guy knows their assignments as well as he knows his own, which is excellent and probably what you get from a 25-year-old player who's very experienced. And on that age, I don't think the age matters per se. What we've discussed on previous shows is you ask if his best year came as a 25-year-old. In the previous 5 years, he had lesser production. Is that a problem? Has he just bullied 21-year-olds as a 25-year-old player? I don't think that is really a risk with him, and Andy explained it well. He did move around the line, which probably affected his pass rush production in earlier years. And even though everyone bags out PFF, One thing they do really well is that they've had a great track record of predicting pass rushers who are going to dominate in the NFL. And the two things you're looking for is a pass rush grade of over 90 and a pass rush win rate of over 20. It's when you start seeing guys whose pass rush grade is in the 70s and their win rate's under 15 that you get Tyree Wilson and Shamar Stewart and Miles Murphy and guys who've been, I won't say bust, but maybe haven't produced at that first round level. Mesidor's year he just had for the Hurricanes, he had a pass rush grade of 92.5 and a pass rush win rate of 20.8%. Beautiful. Amazing. So big tick for me. I had him as my 19th player. I think the Chargers were surprised, Andy, when he was on the board at pick 22. Yeah. So they ran the card up and bang, we've got a guy ready to win straight away.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the benefit of having that super senior year, and it sort of noticed, I watched one or two parts of games from 2024 compared to 2025, and you can see that on a lot of coverage sacks, he is the one finishing the play and getting to the quarterback. If the quarterback hangs on to it long enough, he will find you. And he just sort of, he's felt like his mental game went up that other level, which I think helped him with his productions. And yeah, what was it? 52 and a half career tackles for loss and 35 and a half sacks in college. Like,
so good.
I'll have that at 22. Yes, please. Very excited about it. With the way that the board fell for me, and guys that are, tackles converting to interior linemen or guards, Ioane, etc. Having gone with edge being a need and who else was there, I'm so glad they took Mesidor ahead of some of those other guys. So big tick, very happy. I'll grade it at, I think A-. I'm really about it. And maybe the knock is age and injury history. Whatever. I see him as a third down defensive end, and it's going to be good fun watching him play.
Before I grade, Alistair, can I ask you a question? Do you see Mesidor being a 3-down edge as well? Because, we think about the player that we've just lost in OA. Was he a 3-down player? Arguably, yes, but he specialised in that third down pass rush, right? Could you see a world where we've actually got Mesidor lining up in a defensive tackle position with Tooley and Mack, sort of in that, is it called a NASCAR package, I believe? Is that what that's called? Yeah. So before I give a grade, do you think he's going to play meaningful snaps almost from the get-go?
I do. I think, and I love the way he talks about it. He really focuses on setting a blunt edge on early downs. I'm not seeing him get pushed around when he's trying to set the edge. I think he does it well. The only thing is when he maybe treats first down as a pass and goes racing off the line, so it gets washed down the line of scrimmage. But that's coachable. I think on third down is where you might see him kick inside and you can really alternate. Tooley can do that. Mesidor can do that, but don't expect to see Mesidor at defensive tackle on first down. I think they'll pick their favourite two edge setters and do that on first and second down, but definitely not a liability in the run game and better than OA at setting a hard edge.
And are we seeing also a prototype of the rusher that the Chargers are going to have in the future, like solid, not particularly traitsy? Tooley wasn't traitsy coming out, even though Tooley wasn't wasn't this regime's pick. But it kind of seemed like this is the prototype. Would you suggest that is sort of short, not short, but stocky and powerful?
Absolutely. And the trait is production. Do you know what I mean? It's not an athletic trait. It's like Tooley. He had 10.5 sacks or whatever it was in his final year at USC. Mesidor's just had 12.5 in his final year in Miami. So actually knows how to rush the passer with a variety of moves. One thing I will say that is interesting and maybe not in a good way is Mock Draftable takes all the measurables of the player and their testing times and finds the player since 1999 who are the closest physical comps to that player. And it was unbelievable that the third closest physical comp to Mesidor was Jeremiah Atauchu.
Atauchu, wash.
But totally different player on the field. Let's not worry about that. I reckon for me, Jack, this is an A grade. And I take Andy's point. The only risk really injury and age. By the time he's up to his second contract, he's 29. But for me, this is the best pick of the draft.
And what's also I'm gonna give it an A, but I'm gonna add on top of that. I've been listening to a lot of discourse around the league with all those tight ends going off the board so early that it really seems like a lot of teams are trying to follow that McVay running 12 and 13 personnel. So, to get an edge setter at 22, to have Tooley, Mack, and Mesidor there, and to have the interior of the offensive line looking like it does, try and run on us. The league is moving back to more of a running game, I think, just in general. So in terms of that, and listen, I was going to give it a B+, but then I started to listen to and I saw how the draft and what teams are trying to do in terms of running the football. I then pushed that up to an A, actually, because I think this is exceptional, because when Mac eventually retires, we're going to have two edges that are strong as blunt edges, as you say, Alistair. All right, here we go.
Just to jump off on the back of that part of that sort of prototype of the Chargers' edges is, first and foremost is stopping the run. And I think Mesidor has that with setting a hard edge, and it's good. All right, Jack, over to you.
Love it. Okay, so here we go. This is Jake Slaughter. What do we take Slaughter with? We took him with the 63rd pick after... what do we trade? What was the trade? So Chargers trade pick 86, third round to the Cleveland Browns for picks 105.
No.
Sorry.
55.
So that's
the
sorry,
Patriots.
55, I should say. To the Patriots to the 63rd. Sorry, I apologize. And I'll get into Jake Slaughter after we have this one here.
The year is 2026. The battlefield, the interior offensive line. The reports are divided. Some call it a victory, others fear disaster. Historians may never agree. With pick 63, the Chargers select Jake Slaughter. Charge!
There we go. Now, this is going to seem a bit weird that I've got the Battle of Borodino up there, but stick with me. Who have I got this guy? Yeah, I know. Sort of a Russian and French battle with the American independence. But who is he in one sentence? What I've got is a rural Florida hunter-fisherman, lifelong Gators fan, academic standout, and Remington-level center whose draft profile somehow feels like historians arguing over who actually won the Battle of Borodino. I'll get to that in a second. But this is big Jim Harbaugh energy, I think. Only boy in the family, outdoorsman, hunter-fisherman. His father coached him, a 4.46 GPA, agricultural education degree, SEC academic honor roll, 2-year captain, and what I think he's a 43-year-old in a 23-year-old's body. And if he was a book, he'd be none other. Well, a 36-year-old and a 36-year-old's body, I think is about right. But thank you, I appreciate that. If he was a book, it's none other than Have to Be War and Peace, right? Because his scouting report and what we've watched of the film reads like a bit of a campaign study, a bit of a historiography. He's got toughness. I think he's quite disciplined. He's definitely got endurance. He's a bit of a physical beast. He's got the leadership. However, there seems to be this debate, and I think this is where we're going to go now, Alistair. I'll hand it off to you in a second, is he actually going to play center, or is he actually going to kick out to guard? And if he kicks out to guard, there's actually not a lot of tape, and maybe the transferables don't look great in the NFL. And this is where the Battle of Borodino comes in. If people don't know, it was one of the most important battles in the French-Russian campaign. Napoleon was fighting there. It was claimed a French victory. However, Russia claimed strategic success and sort of retreated. They gave up Moscow, but they burnt Moscow as they were doing it. That meant that essentially Napoleon stopped and sort of had to combat the winter and was never able to sort of invade, in inverted commas, Russia. So, and historians still debate it. So that's kind of how I've set it up. Alistair, where are you falling? Are you saying that this is a win? This is a French victory? Or are you actually saying that maybe when you look at it, perhaps it's not a French victory at all, it's actually a French defeat? What say you?
Well, we've seen in the last 230 years that no one has successfully invaded Russia, and maybe I'm a little bit dim about the idea that this is a French invader that we have on the screen. I just have to call it how it is. I watched full games of Slaughter before the draft. I didn't love what I saw, and I ended up having him as a 4th round prospect, someone who I thought was the 3rd best centre in the class for me. And the main reason, just if I'm going to put it simply, and we've got some clips on screen now, some are positive, some are issues. I'm looking for boring linemen where I watch a whole game and think, yeah, you did your job. Maybe you didn't dominate, although that rep on screen is a beautiful seal of the linebacker at the second level. And it's boring tape is good tape. For Slaughter, reliably, 5 or 6 snaps per game don't look very good. And I'm talking about he's on the ground at least 3 times a game. I think his contact balance is poor at this stage. Knocks from the side typically make him fall over. People talk about his pass protection. This is what he does well on screen now. His ability to move laterally is impressive because he's a good athlete. But Florida had the ball out of Lagway's hands pretty quickly. And I saw issues as soon as he had to do a true drop back pass set. Power caused him some problems. In both phases of the game, he does not sustain his blocks for very long. The defender is able to rip off him. And for such a good athlete, at least in testing times, what you can see on screen is, I think at the second level, either it's a processing problem or it's a physical, like athletic issue. He takes the wrong angle and the linebacker often gets through and can make a play on the back. I don't want to be wholly negative because the way I've thought about this, Andy, listeners, this guy is the anti-Bradley Bozeman. He's the opposite. He is so smart. You see him pointing out mics. I didn't see a single pressure clean through the A-gap, while in all of now the 8 games I've watched of this guy. And I think he's a leader on the field and has good athletic traits. But what no one gives credit to Bradley Bozeman for is you very rarely saw pressure up the middle from a strong defensive tackle rock him back off the ball. They're the things you don't really notice. But for someone who watched literally every all-22 snap of Bozeman's career, you take for granted when he just sits there and holds up the tackle and you don't notice it. I think Slater has real question marks in that area of his game. Maybe Ben Herbert can draw that out of him, Andy, but that is why the move to guard is a bit weird for me. It's not that there's not much tape. There is 0 tape. He's played 0 snaps at guard other than 2 reps at the Senior Bowl, which did not go well for him. So, Andy, what are you thinking about this player?
Yeah, this was a bit of dare I say, in the moment, a sour turning point. There was excitement over the Mesidor pick day 1. Then the Chargers trade back from 55 with the Patriots again, which we know worked out exceptionally well for Ortiz a couple of years ago. But then we go with a center. And as you say, Al, the glaring stat is that he just did not play a snap at guard or tackle in a 5-year college career and had the struggles at Senior Bowl practices at guard. You can see in his tape, and it sort of adds to your comment about being on the ground, and it's almost a bit of a theme with the offensive linemen that we've taken this year, is that there's a bit of leaning on blocks, and there's just not the sort of punch, right? It's more falling into it rather than pushing off, using that athleticism and strength to then reset. Yeah, exactly. So he is exposed out in space with tackles moving across his body, which does not bode well for moving into a guard role. So it really begs the question of what the philosophy is behind the pick, because there's been commentary around Ortiz saying to Jake Slaughter, we're going to list you as a guard because we think you have a crack at playing starting guard. Is that smoke and mirrors? Who knows? Because we've just paid Tyler Biadasz, at least for 2 years to be the starting center, paid to be the starting center. And now we've taken a guy that it's a real question mark about vying for that starting guard role.
Although, Andy, that play on screen there, on those outside zone runs where you're reach blocking, that he can do well. So if listeners are thinking, well, McDaniel's scheme is more about space, I think at least there's some upside there. Are they lying about the guard thing? Because unbelievably, they found a clip of Ortiz saying, we've caught him a guard to shut up the fans. He's actually said that, and he's been recorded as saying, "Shut up, the fans." Is this just the team's backup centre, and it's actually just a little bit of lip service to keep us happy?
Well, I was alluding to something along those lines. I had no idea about that little tidbit of intel. I did find it odd. This was the blue chip player of Joe Ortiz in this draft, and they were pumped to be able to get him at 63. But is that just sort of covering? Who knows? But it's interesting if the glaring need is for the competition at the guard position, and you go and then take arguably reach for Biardish's backup. Who knows? It's all depth. So I understand the philosophy of the building of the group and having more bodies to then find the best. But it was an interesting one. So I see the cerebral approach to his game, but I'm not sure. Yep. I'm just a bit uncertain. Sorry, Jack.
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to disagree. I'm going to think that if this is a backup centre, I think this was one of the best centres of the draft, if not the best. So that's what I'm going to say. Those reps that you see there, we haven't had a guy at lineup at centre that can have his head on a swivel, make contact. And there's this understanding at center. There's just a feel when you're playing at the position to know when to disengage that initial block and get one of those linebackers or a stunt that's coming through. And as you said, Alistair, this is the anti-Bradley Bozeman. He's a 4.46 GPA. He's a smart dude.
I didn't mean it.
Okay. Yeah, but it's I'm sorry, but it just is, because one of the biggest criticisms, and I know that's harsh, and I'm sorry, but one of the biggest criticisms is that stunts just absolutely killed us last year, and have been. I mean, that's just objective, right? I'm not saying that Bradley Bozeman is not a smart. He's a lovely guy, does all that stuff, but clearly that tape shows that this guy he's got the feel, and he's got his head on a swivel, and he can shift. And as you said, that lateral movement. So as a backup long-term center, I think this is a great pick. As a guard prospect that is going to be a starting guard, that's when I have some major issues, because he's a bit enigmatic, right? When you look at his testing, he's got an extremely high percentile broad jump, or a vertical jump, which shows that he's got the lower body power, but his bench press was only 22 reps, I think, which puts him in a very low percentile, right? So it shows to me that he's got that athletic lower body and perhaps the power. It's just he doesn't have that upper body strength, but perhaps that the lack of upper body strength gives them that lateral agility. So it's going to be interesting to see where Ben Herbert takes him, and where he's going to line up. But for me, he's not a guard. I just don't think he is. Not straight away. But if anything happens to Biardish, am I happy with him coming in? We don't have Bradley Bozeman coming in, for example, or Andre James. This is a really good pick for the future of the offensive line. So for me, I'd have to then go, with all the information in front of me, I have to give this pick probably a B-. I was going to push it into the C range, but if he's a backup center, I think if it was purely for a backup center, I'd give it a B+. Mm-hmm. But if it's a guard, I'd give it a C. So I'm going to go B-. That's where I'm falling, Alistair.
Yeah, nice. I might actually adjust my grade because you've explained that very nicely. I originally gave it a C, but that's assuming he plays guard. As a center, I'd give it a B. So C+ overall. Two things to say before throwing to you, Andy. Even comparing him to centers, his weight is 49th percentile and his arm length is 39th percentile. So then moving him out to guard, what does that mean? It just gets harder to deal with those better athletes who play from the 3-tech and stronger, more powerful overall players. I'll end with another mock draftable comp, because this probably speaks to why he is a true center. The second and third closest physical comps, Chargers fans will be happy to hear, Nick Hardwick and
looks like him too.
Yeah, he does. And Tanner Bordolini, who's gone on to be a very good starter for the Colts. So as a backup center, much better pick. The question is, at the bottom of the second round, is this good use of that capital? But Andy, they collected 2 picks in the process, slid back from 50-odd to 63 and got their player anyway. So that makes it much better for me.
Yeah, you do have to look at the big picture of all the, how we got to 63 and, a 4th and a 6th come with it. So there's definitely that as a positive. But there's so much pressure immediately onto this guy, right? Like the minute he's drafted, there's a mashup as you said, Al, the likeness to Nick Hardwick, and he was a great centre for the Chargers. So is in the building. So there's immediate pressure on this guy, drafted as a guard, and the fans are clamoring for interior offensive line help. And now what's this guy going to do? Red shirt because they're like, well, he didn't win that, but at least we've got safety behind Biadish. I do feel a lot better about Jake Slaughter stepping in instead of Cole Strange taking snaps at centre.
Me too.
For me, so
Andy, can I say quickly, so you can put picture to what that trade meant? We could have picked Jake Slaughter with pick 55. The fact that we went back to 63, who we have got instead is Slaughter plus Genesis Smith plus Logan Taylor. So those are the players we now got from that trade back.
And Alistair, an extra caveat before you go, Andy, is that we can't forget we don't know what Mike McDaniel's run game is going to look like. If this guy comes in and plays guard because we're going with heavy personnel and we're running an outside zone where everyone's moving laterally and it's athletes, heck, I reckon that's what he can do. So that's the other caveat where I know people are like, this is a D, this is an F pick. There's just so many unknowns, and that's the other thing I was going to say.
Yeah, so I'll just quickly round up. I think C+ for me, just because of taking this position at the time that we did, and I know we got the other ones, but I just can't give it higher because I can't see the vision and understand why. In the second round, you kind of want a little bit of. You want them to be doing something in their rookie year, right? You don't want them to be going, oh, well, they lost a battle that they weren't going to win, and now he's not going to play unless one guy gets injured. I want to see a guy that's a rotational piece or something like that, or actually pushing for and possibly going to win that starting guard role. So C+ for me.
All right, we're on to the third one. It's been 36 minutes. We're doing okay. Okay. Well, this is great.
Giving the people what they want.
Giving the people what they want. Yeah, that's right. Where are we? Okay. The speeding ticket from Spearman here. Welcome, Brenen Thompson. And then Alistair, after the audio, it's all yours.
We got a code 426. TDU traffic enforcement has detected a wide receiver traveling at unsafe speeds through the fourth round. License status, dangerous. Destination, SoFi Stadium. The Chargers select Brenen Thompson. We've got a problem here. Let's go get out and get him, boys.
Lovely, although slightly concerned, especially in the NFL, that we're referring to like high-speed chases with players. Let's not put that on. Let's not put that on this guy. So Brenen Thompson, wide receiver out of Mississippi State. The first thing you notice, is he's small. He's 5'9" and 3/8 of an inch. He's 164 pounds. And his arm length is third percentile. But what he brings to the table is that elite speed we're talking about. I mean, it started from when he was young. He was a high school quarterback in Texas. He ran a 10.18 second 100-meter dash in high school. His 200-meter time is 20.73 seconds. So he's just speed. Guys like Xavier Worthy and Jahdae Barron went to school with him and used to watch him run during ATHS. And at the combine, his 4.26 second 40-yard dash, which was first among all wide receivers, is not only 98th percentile, but right now he's the second fastest rostered wide receiver in the entire NFL, behind Xavier Worthy. Bit of a weird career. So he's played for 3 different schools, even though he was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school. He started at Texas for a year. Then he moved to Oklahoma, which was a bit closer to where his home was physically located. Spent 2 years there with poultry production. But then he moved across to Mississippi State to follow his OC. So you've got a guy with almost no production. And then in his final year in 2025, the guy comes out and has 57 catches, 1,054 yards, 6 touchdowns, led all Power 4 players with 5 catches of 50-plus yards and 10 catches of 40-plus yards. And don't have preconceived notions about what a guy like this is going to be, because he is a pure outside receiver. He's able to get off the line and beat press coverage. He does the Malik Neighbors shoulder shrug where he gets inside release off the corner. And there's no schemed up production with this guy. He's generally like getting off press, running way down the field and catching the ball with reasonably good ball tracking. Things to expect from this guy and not, before I'll go to you, Jack. I do think we need to slightly halt expectations, because you do see some of the things you would expect to see on his tape, which you can roll whenever you're ready, from a smaller player, which is sometimes, you know, if the corner is able to get their hands on him, he doesn't have the length or mass to work through it, and the rep's over. He can also get squeezed past the sideline, an outside release goes. You also see over the middle, and there'll be a clip coming up soon, his hands aren't that reliable. So his drop percentage this year was 8.1% and 8.7% for his career. So contact over the middle of the field just isn't as comfortable catching that football. But I think it's worth taking a flyer, especially with the OC we have. Look at him beating Barrett on the screen. DC's treated this guy seriously, right? When they played against Ole Miss, they were putting Jamod McCoy on him when they faced Texas, and when they faced Tennessee, and they were playing Jadae Barron on him when they were playing Texas. So opposition DCs knew this guy was legit, and there are some really nice highlight grabs, Jack, on this guy's tape. Perfect fit for Mike McDaniel. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a scheme pick rather than a player pick for me, because I think the best case scenario from the tape that's on here and sort of what I've read and a couple of other things is that I think the best case scenario for Thompson is that he's a legitimate, as you said, legitimate field tilting, I think wide receiver 3. I think that's where his skill set lies. I don't think he's going to be a 2 or a 1. People are going, it's going to be Tyreek Hill. I just don't think he is. I mean, if he is, amazing, but I think realistically he's that vertical weapon. And I always go, even when he's not touching the ball, defenses are going to need to be aware of where he is. And I think you're already winning when you've got a player like that on the field, right? The only risk, as you say, Alistair, is this: what happens if he is just a track and field athlete at the college level? He got some production, but in the NFL, maybe he's just not heavy enough. Maybe his tools, his traits are just not. I mean, 4.26 speed is unbelievable, right? But if you're a one-trick pony, you get found out quite quickly at the NFL. So I think for me, the floor of Thompson is kind of like a gadget deep threat specialist that maybe plays 10 to 15 snaps a game, and it's going to be dependent on what Mike McDaniel wants to do. The ceiling, well, as I said, wide receiver 3, who's genuinely a threat whenever he's on the field. And I can't imagine, finally, for people like Lad McConkey and for QJ and for Trey Harris as well, what that's going to mean, because they're going to have a little bit more room to operate in. Before I throw to you, Andy, I got to give one sort of allusion to something. And I thought if he was a film, I think he's got to be Top Gun Maverick, right? Because he's fast, he's dangerous. Nice. He's slightly smaller than some of the machinery around him, like Tom Cruise in a little fighter jet. But I think he's absolutely capable of ruining your day if you miscalculate him. Same with Tom Cruise. Shout out Katie Holmes. So, Andy, what are you thinking of the Brenen Thompson pick?
Yeah, so for context of the pick in the 4th round, it was a result of the trade back from 86 with Cleveland that netted another 5th and a 6th. So, you factor that in for the positions we moved out of the back end of day 2 to add this guy. And man, that speed, it's so exciting to think of all the possibilities that Mike McDaniel can use this guy, how much excitement McDaniel had before the pick was made. You're exactly right, Jack, with what you say about his speed commands attention and respect, as we've seen from DCs in college, putting CB1s on him, to the NFL, defenses recognizing that this guy will burn you. Unless he's absolutely jammed up on the line or pushed too far out wide, because he's too small. He's smaller than me, which is crazy for a professional sports star. But he has that speed to burn past defensive backs, and it's unreal. isn't the crispest route runner. I do have some question marks over him. The only sort of 1 year of production, being small. It's not the crispest route runner, and what he was able to do in college was get so far into like a 12 step curl, and the defensive back is actually pedaling further back because they're like, if he isn't breaking out of this, I'm done. So they're protecting that deep ball. So he doesn't have the perfect deceleration to sort of stop on a spot. It's sort of one more step, but he's already sort of generated that separation. I don't know if that will translate into the NFL and he'll be able to get away with that, which does make him a little bit more one-dimensional, I think. And depending on the personnel groupings, if you've got 2 wide receivers on the field and he's one of them, is that, more smoke and mirrors, or does that sort of make you a little bit more predictable in how you're sort of using him? Really interested to see, but, we've taken him at 105, which I think was sort of positive on the consensus for him. And I'm not too concerned about his role in special teams, which he hasn't done much of. I think he can still supplant Darius Davis' roster spot, as those return jobs will probably go to Keaton Mitchell or another running back. So, yeah, you're not going to get too much in a run blocking role. He doesn't really sustain blocks, but the potential is exciting. And from the video, the footage of him taking the call, he seems like a really likable character that's just going to work. So, pretty pumped about the pick.
It's Alistair. What do you do and how do you defend if you've got 12 personnel, you've got Kolar and Gadsden on the end of the line, you've got Keaton Mitchell in the back, you've got Lad McConkey, and then you've got this guy outside as well. What are you doing there? That's looking pretty sexy, right? Depending on who's on. You've got your skates on it. If you're a defense, you're going, oh boy, because you've got Lad McConkey's lovely route running and crisp route running that can get you in the short to mid game. You've got Kolar and Gadsden can hit you on the seam. Kolar can curl underneath, and then you've got 2 guys. Some of the fastest guys in the NFL. That's exciting. Oh, I'm pumped up.
The route concept looks like a firework exploding. It's just
Shout out Najee. Shout out Najee. Yeah.
Clip that off.
Delightful.
All right, I'll come in with the draft grade, and this will be the last one of these mock draftable thing. The physical comps for him are Deshaun Jackson, Jalen Waddle, and Tank Dell. No surprises there. Elite speed. I'm glad you mentioned this, Andy, because I didn't. Even though his 98th percentile 40-yard dash is impressive, the 10-yard split was actually only 57th percentile, and I did notice he comes up quickly off his drive phase, maybe a bit too upright, which is odd for a guy who was an elite sprinter at high school. Yeah. So where I think that will translate on the film, he's not actually a very good yak threat. And maybe if you get him maybe if you get him on a crosser, he'd be fine. But if you're thinking he's a true gadget Tyreek Hill where you throw a curl and then he's going to turn around and make 2 guys miss in space, I didn't see him do that very much. He actually often got tackled trying to get off the mark and get around defenders. So just be mindful of that. Yeah. Draft grade, for that reason, I'm just going to give this a solid B. It's a good pick, but like you, Andy, I'm a bit questioned. Like, if we think he's this do-it-all receiver, he may be a little more limited than that at the NFL level.
Jack, draft grade?
Yeah, I'm going a little more bullish. Sorry, I've just added something. I'm going to be a little more bullish, and I'm going to go B+, purely because of that footage of Mike McDaniel saying, I'll take my shirt off if we can get him. He's got something cooking in his little brain there. So, 4th round, I'm not expecting him to be a massive impact player immediately, but I think he gives Mike McDaniel a tool to really let his offense shine. So I'm going to go B+.
Yeah, I'm going to go B-, and I think it's worthwhile, while we're talking about the wide receiver room, to make note of the Chargers taking Quentin Johnston's 5th-year option, because that, to me, at least, that sort of signals the sort of closing of the wide receiver. I think the door's always sort of open, but, when we're talking about a blockbuster trade for an AJ Brown or maybe a Deebo Samuel in the post-draft free agency, I kind of think like the team's moving away from that. So we're sort of looking now at the players that we've got in the room. And I think, there are obvious physical limitations. They're not things that you can coach. You can't coach height or sort of mass and frame and strength in that way to sort of fix some of Thompson's deficiencies. I think B- for me, because he does still add speed, and that is, as we've seen in Miami, that is an incredibly valuable asset to have in your wide receiver room. I'd also just before we move on, Jack, one up you, Al, and say that I was super impressed at his ball tracking. Like at that speed to get his head around for a small guy, he's not going to win your contested catches for sure, but he made some beautiful over the shoulder catches where the ball's probably not put where it's supposed to be. He'll find it and track it down. So, there's probably as many ticks as question marks, I think, for me. So, B- in the fourth.
We also haven't seen him with Justin Herbert throwing those beautiful long balls. So that's something to factor in as well. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. All right. Another pick. Andy, I'm going to leave this to you. The Herbert Protection Program. Travis Burke. Here we go.
Attention all personnel. Attention all personnel. Construction has commenced on the right side of the offensive line. Please wear protective equipment. Heavy machinery is entering the building. The Chargers select Travis Burke.
Andy, I did this exactly for you because that sound is obviously your daily. So that one was for you. You're back on the construction site, baby.
Do you need me to get my big hard hat? I get the vibe immediately out of this guy of, I believe that jacket belongs to Mr. Gilmore. Just a giant man chasing down anyone who's like, can you imagine Travis Burke being on the field where Tillery socked Herbert? I know Bozeman went over, or forgive me, I forget the name of the Saints defensive tackle that rolled up on Herbert. Man, I wouldn't be doing it if Travis Burke is protecting the quarterback that you're trying to cheap shot. This guy's 6'9", 325 pounds, and he's just an animal, yeah. Like, incredible during high school. He hit a growth spurt in his just after his junior year, I think. As a freshman, and grew 10 inches prior to his junior season. 10 inches in 1 year. Golly.
That's unbelievable.
So interesting. Another great thing, played right tackle, defensive line, and long snapper. 6'6" long snapper. So,
wild.
If we don't have to worry about Rick Lovato if Josh Harris goes down. Just insert Travis Burke.
The 6'9" long slapper.
Try jumping over that, to block the field goal. Yeah.
Yeah, Cam Dicker will be winning an All-Pro nod for being able to kick the ball over this guy's head.
I was going to say, or kicking it into the back of his head, yeah.
Because he kind of does play a little bit like he's 6'9". He doesn't quite have the bend, but he's just a strong man. So he's sort of been able to get away with it a little bit in college. But yeah, he definitely plays upright a little bit too much for me. He's a mean guy, right? That's another sort of trait of the offensive linemen that we've taken is these guys want to bury you. They want to drive past the whistle. And there's effort. There's so much effort in this guy. So I saw some understandable kind of traits. You're taking this guy where in the fifth, was it? Fourth. Fourth. I see that there's like ball of clay kind of traits that you can work with, but he is sort of a pure tackle. So, again, there's the question marks around the group building philosophy. While we've gone tackle here instead of an interior guy, I don't really see. You guys might agree or disagree as to whether he can move inside, but I think this is maybe the swing tackle pick, right? A guy, maybe the sixth offensive lineman, like that's a luxury to have if you've got him lining outside Rashawn or outside Joe Alt. That is a cool idea, and that's, I guess, where I'm sort of thinking his sort of trajectory is. Al, if you want to jump in anything further on the tape that you're seeing.
Yeah, sure. Roll it, Jack. I mean, I will slightly disagree in the sense that I had preconceived notions about a 6'9" guy and how he might move. And I actually thought for his size, relative to his size, he moved quite well. Now, look, he because he's 6'9", his secondary reaction time isn't so good. So the longer the rep goes, the more he struggles to hold it up. And he's got a bit of a bad habit of using this flash and reset move where instead of latching the first time, he goes for the push, which kind of gives the pass rusher a second chance to rush the passer. But look, he primes his hands quickly off the snap. I thought his 45-degree kick slide range was actually really good for a guy who's 6'9" in pass pro. Moved pretty well. You've already commented on like the bullying runs down the field, which are awesome to watch. But his ability to mirror and stop inside counter moves was way better than I was expecting. So this guy, he is a massive, for me, a massive upgrade on what Trey Pipkins has been able to do at the NFL level. We traded up to get this guy, which was really exciting for me. Hey, shout out to his mum and dad, who both clearly scour X for posts of their son, and they've liked everything we've put up about him so far, even when I'm listing his question marks, but that's okay. But I'm really positive.
Mr. and Mrs. Burke. Woo!
Yeah. I'm
really positive about this guy's tape overall. The question mark, Jack, is because he was playing firstly for some lower schools and then Memphis for one year only, pretty untested against Power 4 college competition. And when they played the best team on their schedule, Arkansas, he did give up a sack. So maybe it's hard to see how he'll go against the NFL quality defenders, but a good developmental pick at the absolute minimum for me.
Yeah, before I get into the best case scenario, what I was thinking, I'm going to cherry pick or piggyback, dare I say, off the back of your your comment there. I always think, with a guy this big is, at 6'9", physics is going to be both a blessing and a curse, depending on who you're lining up against. And there's always that, can leverage beat height? So that's the question, or can height beat leverage, right? So that's what, for his entire career, he's probably going to have to deal with those two questions. As you said, and as I think you both said, he's got pad level issues just because he's such a ginormous human. I thought he actually struggled a little bit with his interior counters as well. So he quite likes having the control because he's got such long arms on the outside. But when someone comes in and his arms get a little closer to his body, I thought that was a little bit of a struggle for him. So
fair.
And I think edge rushers at the NFL level are going to pick that straight away and go, well, you're going to try and push me out, so I'm just going to come across your face. It sounds terrible. And I'm just going to destroy you, going on the inside. So you're right. It's a developmental pick. I think it's going to provide, you're kind of hoping that his development trajectory is far faster than a Trey Pipkins, and his ceiling his ceiling is a lot higher than Trey Pipkins, which I think it is. And best case scenario, this turns into I don't think he's ever going to be a starting tackle, but I think at best he's going to be a legitimate swing tackle that we can rely on. Maybe not for this year, but for the next sort of 3 to 4 years of his career. So,
Jack,
who's our offense?
If your tackle got injured, do you think you could come in for, say, 3 games and not be Austin Deculus and these kind of guys?
Well, I mean, are they just saying Trey Pipkins is not available?
Yeah, let's say if he had to start for whatever reason, maybe we've had multiple injuries.
Okay, I mean, I'd still think Trey Pipkins beats this guy out purely because based on experience, but at least you're not getting someone from the street. And I think before I hand it back to you, Andy, I think that's something that we've also got to, we've been clamoring, and every single fan on X has been clamoring for offensive line depth. This is just another way to go, you know what? And he might end up on the practice squad. You just don't know, right? You just don't know what's going to happen at camp. But if he sticks on the practice squad, he's in the building, he's with the offensive line, he's developing at least. And this was the other thing that maybe I was sort of comprehending, and I shared it both with you offline, but is this where Harbaugh is starting to develop this college style room where he's got sort of this track that from the practice squad, you're always going to have a bunch of guys at key positions that you're going to be able to bring in rather than looking at a deculus or rather than going to the free agent pool in the middle of the year to try and find a tackle or a guard. I wonder, I mean, that's very hard to do in the NFL, but this to me just screams, and a couple of the other picks that we'll talk about, just screams that kind of developmental sort of philosophy, Andy.
Yeah, I think there's, pardon me, I think there's definitely an argument for listening to the fans and, you know, just bringing in more bodies into this room. Like totally unplannable things happened last year with the injuries outside and the question marks between who was playing center, who was playing left guard. So it was just a firestorm across the board. This is, I see the pick, I see the projection. I agree with both of you that this is a swing tackle type role, but trading up to get this guy, he was obviously on the radar. It just kind of brings a little bit of questions back to why did you pay Trey Pipkins so much? Why did you jeopardize the compensatory pick formula to then go and take not an interior offensive lineman, a tackle, to essentially supplant Pipkins' role eventually? So again, the philosophy, I understand the vision. I don't understand how I want to see the working out. You know what I mean? You'll appreciate that, Jack, even though you can't do that in English. I'm a maths and science guy myself, so I am, you know, I want to see how you get to where we land. And yeah, I think there's good, as I said in my sort of recap, I see like ball of clay stuff. I think there's things that are coachable. I don't know if you touched on the control, Jack, and that sort of plays into him, that first move being a push. He wants to keep defenders out in front of him. And when he gets moved in, he can be worked around a little bit too much. Yeah. But I think the way that that's going to move in the NFL, if you don't sort of get your head around that, is that if you push off, being that big frame, even though he can move laterally, it's going to be easy for faster edge rushers to bend around him. If they beat that initial push, he's done. That's the rep over. If that push doesn't work and he can't then reset himself, I think he might struggle a little bit. So yeah, I see the projection. And yeah, there's obviously something there. I think grade-wise, I can't go higher than a C+. I don't think.
Yep, I'm also a C+.
Okay, I'm more bullish. I'm a B+ on this one. And I think, I think Jack answered your question why they've done it. The strategy is so they're not just relying on one swing tackle and you've got a guy in the building, so you have multiple backup tackles, which I don't mind after the season we've just had. I think I was more impressed by him not allowing guys to go through his chest with the bull rush. Okay, maybe if they're slanting across and they're trying to get through that B gap, okay, the lateral mirror ability is not as good. And you see that in the run game too, when he's trying to do a hinge block on the backside of a run, a cutoff block. He can't reach it and the defender's past him. And sometimes he actually shoves the defender towards the action. Oh, like, don't do that, don't do that. But I thought his anchor was better than I was expecting for a guy like this. I was expecting him to fall backwards and topple over. And I'm going to use this to have a crack at a guy who he didn't draft. All these fans were talking about Jennings Dunker from Iowa. I hated that guy's tape. The number of times he fell over backwards because he was on his heels, overbalancing. I thought he had a really thick base and I can see the vision. So I'm going B+ for where he was taken, which is pick 117 in the draft.
Okay. Awesome. Well, that is halfway through our draft. Our 4 picks. We've got 4 more to go. We're going to take a short break and we'll be back in just a minute. And we're back. Okay. Here we go with our next pick in the 2026 NFL draft. We took Genesis Smith. I think you guys will like this intro.
In the beginning, the Chargers needed range. Then came instincts. Then came violence over the main. And on the 4th round day, they said, let there be safety. The Chargers select Genesis Smith. Dominus Vobisco. Oh,
Coming to cinemas this spring.
Yeah, that's what I was going for. I was going for that vibe.
Awesome.
What have I got here? Who is he in one sentence? A legacy football bloodline safety from Arizona with elite range, track athlete movement, and true center field instincts, whose biggest question is whether he wants contact as much as he wants the football. If this guy was a film, and I thought long and hard about this, it'd be none other than Dune. The new ones, not the old ones. Long, athletic, elegant, a little bit futuristic. I think he's that hybrid type. And often, I think, feels like he's seeing things before everyone else, very much like Paul Atreides once he's got that blue vision, whatever the hell it's called. What else have I got? Father played major college football. He's got a foundation in his grandmother's honor. He's got captain traits. Apparently, he had the best drip, or was one of the guys that had the best drip. I think that means clothing. I'm not too au fait with the modern speech. I'm an English teacher, not a vernacular teacher. Yeah, anyway. Energizer Bunny motor, early declaration, multi-sport explosiveness. Andy, you said ball of clay for the last pick. I definitely feel like there's this guy is also a ball of clay. I think best case scenario, Alistair, before I throw to you, is that he could probably become sort of that rangy NFL free safety who's probably a starter. I definitely see those traits. And he's that answer to that modern, the modern vertical spacing and sort of keeping a lid on that sort of too high safety. However, the big risk, and it comes up on tape, which we'll watch in a second, I'll let you talk a lot about it, is that, one of the hits on him, he maybe avoids tackles or he's not a great tackler, which really means he struggles in run fits. And if we're going towards more of a run first league, where does he fit? And maybe does leave just some physical concerns on tape. I'll kind of leave it there. I really like this pick, even though I've just finished with the risk factors. I like what I see, but I definitely think this is a developmental pick as well. What say you?
It's a developmental pick, but I love this pick. This guy went to Hamilton High School. Did somebody say Kyle Hamilton? I definitely think the ex-Ravens scouts saw some stuff from this guy in coverage that would indicate he's got some of that range that you see from a Kyle Hamilton. 81st percentile arm length, 91st percentile wingspan, 98th percentile vertical jump. Look at that on the screen. So I agree, in the box is not where you want him. And I don't think it's an effort thing. I think it's just his lateral agility isn't that good. Running backs can juke him, or they go through him because he's quite a lighter framed individual, right? But I see him fitting the run with good intentions. And looking on the screen now, tackling out in space, he's actually much better near the sidelines. It's more in the box on a run like this one that you don't want to see. And that is fine, Jack. You talked about the league wanting to run the ball. If you're going to defend that, you usually play cover 3 or single high.
Single high. Yep.
He can be the deep one, right? And the guy who comes forward can be all of our other safeties who are better at doing that, right? And it's all of them. So I don't have a problem. I think his coverage instincts are also pretty good, other than a couple of times where he bit on a crosser and allowed a post over his head. That'll happen sometimes. He's also the only 21-year-old that we've drafted. It's been a draft of much older, experienced guys, and this guy is the opposite of that, and probably the only true free safety we have on the roster. Guys like Jefferson and Mickens and these guys, they don't cover the field as well, and they're better closer to the line of scrimmage. So I think it rounds out, complements our room really nicely. And I think the ceiling on this guy is actually really high, Andy. I don't think it's just some mediocre safety. If this hits, you're talking about a guy who can be a top 10 free safety in the league sometime in the future.
Totally agree. I just about agree with everything you've said as far as the way he reads the field vertically and horizontally, his athletic traits. He picks up running lanes, even if he's in the box and he doesn't lay the tackle, like he's in the right area, right? And so there are elements to those deficiencies that can be coached. And the value, like, yeah, my feeling for this guy is free safety, be that deep, cover the deep third of the field. and allow the safeties that we have in the room to, play further up in the box.
We've got Derwin.
All those other guys are more strong safeties than they are free safeties. So I'm seeing ball ability, athletic traits like speed across the field. It's a great pick for me. Yeah, very excited about it.
Great, Andy.
The tackling stuff does knock it down a little bit. Maybe B-, I think. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Pretty high on it.
And after my effusive praise at the start, what I will say is he did actually miss some chances to have interceptions. So I think maybe the ball skills overall could still improve. And that's maybe why I'm not going to give this an A. I'm going to give it a B+ because I understand the vision. I see what it'll add to the room. He's just not the finished product yet. And that's why he's been taken at pick 131, not higher. There are some missed opportunities to snare the ball that he hasn't quite capitalized on yet.
And he's 21. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't hear you guys. I just sort of lost connection there for a second. I'm actually giving this I'm giving this an A-. I really love him. Alistair, you said it beautifully that he's a 21-year-old. I think as he ages and puts on a little bit more weight, hopefully he doesn't lose that sort of that deep field lateral sort of reading and that jumpiness that he's got to pick passes. But I just think for a guy this deep to just look at the traits to get him as late as we did, I think it's a home run pick no matter what. If he becomes a serviceable safety, great. It's not a huge amount of draft capital, but this for me is an A-. Okay, here we go. Next one up, we have who I'm dubbing as the Velvet Rope. Where are we? We're going to, where is Barrett? There he is. And here is the intro, Alistair, for you. Off we go.
Hey, yo, don't let him in. Yo, what's your name? Welcome to the line of scrimmage. Name's not on the list? You ain't getting in. The Chargers add another body on the front and select Nick Barrett, defensive tackle, South Carolina. Now get out of here.
Just imagine this guy on the door when we were young, trying to get into nightclubs or getting kicked out of them. If it's me involved, geez, and I would not be talking smack to this guy as I'm being escorted out of the building. I would be very, very quiet. Another pick, listeners, that I love. This is as close to Mesidor as my favorite pick in the draft, and the reason why is he's ready to go and he fits exactly what the Chargers like to have as a rolling rotational defensive lineman. A guy who was Kyle Kennard's college teammate in 2024, another smart guy with a 4.0 GPA, 4-time SEC honor roll recipient. So just smart, very serious in all of his interviews. He is a football guy through and through. And Jack, if you roll the tape, this is your no-nonsense defensive tackle who eats up double teams. I know Money, who likes to yap a bit, was saying how much he destroyed Chase Bisontis when they played Texas A&M. I'm not going to say he destroyed him. There were, a good 25 reps, and I say Bisontis got the better of maybe 15 to 18 of those. But the ones where Nick Barrett won flashed to me that he's actually more than simply a pocket pusher. In the run game, he's got your textbook, stack, peek, shed the tackle,
Look at that move.
and get the running back. But as you can see, he's got a little bit as a pass rusher. There's a tiny bit of a swim. He tries to use his long arm and do a push-pull move. He's not going to be a world beater as a pass rusher. That is not why we've drafted him. I think we've drafted him, Jack, as the immediate backup to Dalvin Tomlinson, who can play one technique in the A-gap if you need to, and he's on the field and first and second down, helping you build that run wall.
Mate, this guy, if he was a film, it's none other than it's got to be Roadhouse, right? He's a Roadhouse pick. He's a road grader. Big, physical, calm until necessary. I think you picked up to say that he's very, very serious. I love the way he moves. He's got an explosiveness off the line that we can see in some of these clips here. But what I love about it is he's not built to entertain. Like he's not there for anything super flashy. He's just there because he's going to remove you from the premises. He's going to stick in that one, that A gap, that B gap. He's not going to get moved easily. He's going to stuff the run. And there's enough there, I think, in the pass rush game to actually go with a little bit of technique. With a few more years, this guy could be a little bit more than just a run stuffer and actually become a legitimate maybe run stuffer, pass disruptor from the inside, which is what we've needed for a very long time. I always, and people who listen to the show, Aaron Donald's one of my favorite players. I'm not saying this guy's Aaron Donald, by the way, but I think the key to disrupting an offense is getting interior pressure. Doesn't matter what quarterback you are, whether it's Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, etc. Interior pressure kills offenses. The risk factor, because I've got to maybe be a little bit two-sided here, he's really only got 1 year of production. We talked about his limited pass rush resume. I did feel like sometimes he's a little bit slow on the snap as well. He's a little bit, in terms of his anticipation, that can't happen at the NFL level if you're playing, major snaps. Can get a little bit upright and rely on his power a little bit too much. I'd like to see him stay a little lower and use that those heavy hands and those strong lower half mass, and maintain that power through his moves. But, I think he's going to come in and have an impact, but I can't wait to see what this guy's like in 3 years, given what we've done with someone like Iboigbe and the development that he's had over the couple of years. I'm very bullish on this as well, Andy.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I'm surprised. I really enjoy his drive and flexibility to get through bodies in those tight gaps in the middle of the line, and I think there's potential for real upside. And just the way that he goes about his football says to me, high floor kind of addition. Great development from the defensive line in the last couple of years. Jack and Boygby spot on. Not that they're super similar players, but I think that his limitations in his pass rush arsenal can be coached and adapted, and I think we've got perfect people in the building to do so. Team captain, he's won strength and conditioning MVP at the Gamecocks in 2025. So he's a worker. This is a hardball pick, and another philosophy of this draft as we're going along is this lunch pail mentality of coming and just whatever the job is, whatever's asked of you, just coming in and doing it. So, pumped for this. I think he definitely adds future potential and great projection for the defensive line unit. So I'm just gonna give you a grade straight up, and what do we got? Fifth. Yeah, look, A- for me.
I'll go B. I'm not as bullish on this guy as I was with Genesis Smith, purely because Genesis Smith has the traits I think that could be exceptional. B for me, a safe pick, will come in. Listen, is he going to play major snaps in the first half of the season? No, but do I like him as a little bit of a backup if Delvin Tomlinson goes down or Tia Tart? Absolutely. So I think this is a great depth pick with big upside. So B for me.
Yeah, I'm higher on this. I'm going to go with an A because he's drafted in the 5th round. And I know he was a later breakout. He was really rotational and had to bide his time behind some really good South Carolina defensive tackles. They had a lot of draftable players. And when they actually worked him into the lineup this year, he was much better. Don't expect him to be able to jump across when he's defending zone runs to the outside. So he's not going to cross the face quickly of the guard. What he's really good at is being the spiker on stunts. So he crashes down as the decoy and allows the guy to loop through the A gap. Love the pick.
Love it.
Decoy.
Cool.
Nice.
All right, let's go to Logan Taylor. I've dubbed him as the factory shift, Andy.
Attention, the shift begins at dawn. No glamour, no headlines. Just hands inside, feet moving, and another body added to the trenches. The Chargers select Logan Taylor, guard from Boston College. Come on, boys, back to work, let's go!
This is a pack your lunchbox and get ready for work guy. And in that factory, he's doing all the jobs, right? Out with one Boston College guard and in with a new one, and another Canadian to the Chargers draft hall. This time a 6'6" Nova Scotian.
North of the border.
Went his first 2 years at Virginia before transferring and becoming a 4-year starter in Bill O'Brien's pro-style offense at Boston College. And he is one of very few that can tip his hat and say that he played at least 100 snaps at all offensive line positions throughout, excluding center. Am I correct in saying that? Yeah, excluding center. So positional versatility. This is a guy that I'd say he's in the category of leans a little bit too much into his blocks, but he's got positional versatility, competition, and in the 6th round, I'm about his mentality. Al, what say you about Logan Taylor?
I went on a bit of a journey with him, as you guys would have seen in our group chat, because I started with his 2024. Yeah, don't play him at tackle. That didn't go so well for him, and that's why he's moved into guard with his 4th percentile arm length. Roll the tape, Jack. I thought this was a curious pick for this scheme because I thought most of his issues showed up with below average athleticism. Inconsistent with backside cutoffs, the lateral movement in pass pro, a beat late. He was doing a lot of weird things where while he's meant to do a block, he's looking at one of his teammates. And then
that's weird.
The guy was coming through the gap he was supposed to be defending. But I know Ryan's a bit higher on this guy and thinks he could actually challenge for the starting left guard spot. I see what he means in the sense that like his hand positioning's good. He plays with inside hands. Look at him seal off that block with a nice down block there on the screen. He's got good power for the position. Maybe in the old scheme, I would have really loved this guy more as a downhill people mover. How he goes with some of the Mike McDaniel stuff will be interesting to see. But mate, we're talking about the 6th round here, and he's another smart guy, a veteran experienced guy with high character, and just add another body to the mix, Jack, another guy that we need to add to this room and see who's the best at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would have drafted him I would have drafted him purely because, as you said, Andy, he's worked in every spot in the workplace. He's across the offensive line. Is this a guy that makes the roster? I don't think so, in my opinion, from what I've seen of him. Is he a practice squad guy? Absolutely. Is he a guy that we might call on later this year or later into the season where we need someone to come in and maybe fill a game or two? Perhaps. Is he gonna be starting this year? No. He's a pure depth piece.
Jack wants all these guys on the practice squad. He said that about Burke as well. Why are we drafting them? These guys are making the roster, man.
Yeah, well,
or maybe not.
I don't know about this guy, but you're right. I think it's just versatility. The only thing that I see, and these are probably some more risks, and they're bigger risks than I've seen in some of the others, that he just has tall pads. And I think, as you alluded to, Alistair, his athletic ceiling is fairly average. I didn't see a lot of overwhelming power either, and that led to leverage inconsistency. I like that. Perhaps the best case scenario for him is that he's a career backup guard.
Yeah,
that's where I see him, and that's fine. If you can find a career backup guard in the 6th round that plays some meaningful snaps, absolutely. But that's where I kind of see. For me, this is I can't give it anything more than a C. So this is a C pick for me. Solid. It's a pass. But I mean, what else are you going to get in the 6th round, personally?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm just going with with a C as well. Yep.
I went B for this one just because of the starting experience, and it's the 6th round. I'm thinking about who you can get at that spot in the draft. Could be worse. Hard to think it could be that much better. So I quite like
it's a real
throwing more darts at that position group.
Darts at the position group. All right, we've made it. The last player, and it falls to me. Just give me 1 second. Now, I've mispronounced his name in this intro, so I've called him Harvey, not Harkey. So I apologize, Alex Harkey, but here we go.
From the home of 700 uniform combinations comes a man whose job is wonderfully simple. Block the person in front of him. Style outside, violence on the inside. The Chargers select Alex Harvey, guard, Oregon.
There we go. What have I said? If this guy was a book, I'm going to give him the Charles Dickens, one of my favorite novels of all time, Great Expectations, because his whole profile, his screams that started rough, got humbled, got rebuilt, still becoming. I don't think he's at the end. He hasn't met Miss Havisham yet. Maybe Harbaugh's Miss Havisham for him. But no star recruit, academic issues, which is interesting given the academic integrity that a lot of our draft picks have had this year. He had a position switch, multiple stops. He went from Texas to JUCO to Colorado to Texas State, and then he found his way to Oregon. Yeah. Interesting. I mean, what some positives, what I saw from him, nimble feet. He's got this aggressive temperament, which is very similar to, who do we just talk about? Logan Taylor, which is kind of good. He's got some position flexibility as well. But generally speaking, he's an older prospect, and some risks is that, is this kind of his ceiling? What we've got in front of us now? He's got anchor issues. He's got shorter arms. And he's also a bit of a penalty machine from what I could understand as well. So another, as you said, Elsa, another throw of the dart at the dartboard. I didn't mind what I saw from him from some of the highlights, but yeah, this is just another perhaps person to come in, and whether he starts at guard or whether he's a tackle, who knows? What say you?
Yeah. Listening to this guy talk, he's like a Yellowstone character. He's got that Texan accent. And if you roll the tape, this is more what I was expecting from Mike McDaniel. He, former basketball player and tight end, definitely more athletic than he is strong. He's kind of the reverse of what we just discussed with Logan Taylor. I also made an error earlier. It's actually Harkey with the 4th percentile arms, Jack, as you just mentioned, not Logan Taylor. He won't last in the NFL at tackle. If you watched his game against Texas Tech, David Bailey and Romello height gave him real issues. This is the stuff he does well.
He can
on
move,
the screen
though.
Now.
Yeah.
Yep. Get him down the field on screens. See how he goes doing a bit more of that and moving athletically again. I think you're looking at someone who probably is fighting for a back end of the roster spot. This is the kind of guy I expect could end up on the practice squad. But look, I don't mind. His developmental arc is quite positive. As you said, he started at a smaller school, ends up at Oregon, playing in the college football playoff semi-final. Like, he's battle tested against some of the best defenses, although as you see on screen, it didn't always go well against David Bailey. But Andy, do you have anything else to add to the old Harkey malarkey?
Not too much. I think I feel a little bit better with this pick for the McDaniels scheme, and we'll grade it slightly higher than the Logan Taylor pick.
Me too.
But yeah, there's the athleticism and kind of a little bit of lack of offensive line play coming as a tight end. So being I think he'll be 25 by the time the season starts. It's a very mature projection. So a B- for me. I see a little bit more fit with the athleticism in McDaniel's scheme, but career backup guard kind of areas. Yeah, another body.
Yeah, I just think when you have a good offensive line, there is some nastiness about it. And I just feel over the last couple of years that Harbaugh hasn't had the nastiness that he would like up front. The last 2 picks that including Harkey here, show us that we're trying to get some real nasty kind of guys on there, which I love, which comes with its positives and its negatives. But that clip that we showed just before when he makes 2 big blocks on a running back touchdown, incredible. So I like this. Again, I can't give it anything higher than a C+. Again, you're just throwing darts at a dartboard, but I hope that he can, take this challenge and go, all right, this is my journey. I've now got a shot at the big leagues. I'm going to take it with both hands and lay him on his ass, as he'd probably like to say.
Yeah, C+ for me as well. And you can add Burke to the list of those guards who play with a mean streak, or tackles who play with a mean streak. All 3 of the linemen we've taken, really, apart from Slaughter, the other 3 all play with real, like, angry man persona. Interesting how they all counterbalance one another. I thought Logan Taylor had better technique, but there were more mental errors. Harkey was the opposite. I thought he's helping out teammates, giving them a shove, but then his technique, his hands off and get outside the defender's chest plate. So, we're attacking the room in different ways. And Jack, that is the end of the draft class. We're done.
For another 2026 draft class done. Thank you so much for listening. Andy, I'll hand it over to you for our final segment.
Or do we want to give some grades?
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got to do grades. Sorry, I forgot about that.
Overall thoughts on the class and, how we feeling about the draft as a whole, Andy?
Yeah, like I said at the start, turning 5 picks into 8 is a massive tick for me. A day one, impact player in the first round is what I'm looking at. Drops points for sort of the projection of the day 2 pick. But on the whole, they did what the fans asked, right? They drafted 4 offensive linemen, each with different skill sets that will compete in great ways for the changing of the offensive scheme. So on the whole, I can't be too upset about how it all unfolded. I see the skill set in Genesis Smith to be needed in the safety room with his athleticism and ball skills. So I'm going to give the Chargers draft a B. I'd give it a B+ if we maybe took interior like a guard earlier over the center. I just can't kind of go higher than that. So just a B for me. Clearly drafting yes men, guys that are just going to come in and do what they're asked to do. Easily coachable guys, good character guys, lunch pails in the trenches kind of stuff. So really sticks with the philosophy for me.
I'm a little more bullish on this one, purely because I think the critiques of Ortiz would say that he hasn't done a lot of wheeling and dealing. And us as an organization, we've always said, trade down, let's get more picks. And we've always moved up. And so if it wasn't for that, I'd possibly give it in that B range. But because I've now seen over a number of years now with Ortiz, this guy's got a little of breadth. He can do stuff in the middle of the year with OA. We go in with 5. We walk away with 8. I can't ping him too much for the Slaughter pick. Purely, if we still had Greg Roman, absolutely. But we've got Mike McDaniel, and that's the unknown, right? And I'm just thinking there must be some kind of triumvirate between Harbaugh, McDaniel, and Ortiz that are sitting there going, no, Slaughter, this is what we want him for. And then you go Brenen Thompson. So purely because of that, and fans have been so critical of Ortiz. Why isn't he doing anything? This, that. There's still a lot of guards in the free agency market. There's a lot of players still sitting there that with this draft class now, you add to it, geez, the roster building is good. So I'm actually going to give this draft an A-, purely because of those contextual things. And because I've wanted for so long as a fan to see some wheeling and dealing in those draft rounds, walking away. And it's clear that the strategy is Ortiz sees value in the 4th and the 5th round. It's just clear. That's where he sees it. Maybe that's where he finds the gold. And history would suggest that he has. Is it going to hit every time? No. But for me, it's an A-.
You're very persuasive today, Jack. Listening to that, I'm going to bump my grade from a B to a B+, because I do agree converting 5 players into 8 is a really good result from this draft, and he did it in a way that I thought brought quite a lot of value. We see the themes, right? Smart academic players, guys who love football, older experienced players, with Genesis Smith, the only 21-year-old, a lot of multiple school players. So I think a lot of these guys should be able to contribute. The thing I find harder to grade much higher than that is I still think the league it comes down to your 1st and 2nd round picks. I'm looking for guys who I think could be top 10 at their position or top 15 at their position. And obviously I was a little bit lower on Jake Slaughter as a prospect. I also think if we were being honest, we were hoping to leave the draft with a starting left guard. We might still address that in post-draft free agency, but we've got a lot of bodies in that room now with 13 offensive linemen. So it'd be really interesting to see how they approach that. I think my view will change if we sign Joel Bitonio. Then Jake Slaughter as your backup center could have been a big pick. But I don't love spending picks on positions for those guys not to make the roster. Or a lot of our draft picks have made the roster recently, and I don't know with the Harkeys and the Logan Taylors whether we're using picks on guys who aren't going to be in the roster, whereas we didn't use anything on tight end, defensive tackle till later, cornerback. So I land on a B+ for the trading, which is good. A good, solid draft. Let us know what you think, listeners. I know there's going to be a diversity of opinions out there. It's a bit hard, but look, we've ended up with 8 players rather than 5, Andy, which is a good thing.
Yeah, and then before we move on to our last segment, the signing of undrafted free agents, and I'm not going to list them all, but it's really interesting with all the talk about, could it be Emmanuel Pregnon at 55 or at 63? He kept sliding, and the team's gone and drafted Alex Harkey and another Oregon teammate in Isaiah World, who did his ACL in the playoffs last year. So you just don't know what you know, right? When you're looking at the draft and you're going, this guy's, it was 5th ranked guard and he might be available to us in the 2nd. And we go, we actually like his lesser known teammates.
Well, can I address that, Andy? Because
for sure,
Dane Brugler has come out and said Pregnon didn't interview very well.
Yeah.
So we're all looking at the tape, and yeah, sure, for me, he was the top 32 player. Obviously, 31 teams decided they didn't want to spend pick 80 something or whatever it is on him. So I don't think you can really knock Ortiz for the guys who are like, why didn't you take Pregnon instead of Slaughter? Well, obviously they just didn't like enough of the off-field stuff, plus the tape. They like Slaughter better for all the reasons we've discussed. Yeah.
Well, Pregnon had age as well, and as we've said, these are high character, smart guys that we want in our football team. And if you don't interview well, you're not going to be a Charger. It seems like that's pretty clear cut. So there you go. Happy with that, and super exciting to live through another Chargers off season of what is going to happen in the interior offensive line. Derp. Yes. Jack, hit the audio for our final segment.
Oi, is that a knifey or a spoonie?
When we first started out doing Thunder Down Under, we looked at how we could assimilate ourselves a little bit with, US pop culture. And as 3 now mid-30s gentlemen who grew up watching The Simpsons, we went straight to The Simpsons Go to Australia and the famous scene of the Crocodile Dundee in the pub. First you've got the coffee and the beer, and then you've got, that's not a knife, that's a spoon. I see you've played knifey spoony before. So the way that we like to look at things, if you've done well, you're as sharp as a knife. If you're not, you're a spoon. And the draft will always provide for us teams or coaches or players, existing players that benefited. And you've got teams that did not do so well, maybe reached, maybe had a bad post-pick interview, and just, sort of left their fans feeling a little bit concerned. Al, start us off. What have you got for a knife or a spoon?
All right, I'll start with a knife, and I'm handing out a seatbelt cutter. Specialized tool with a hooked, shrouded blade designed for one thing only, cutting yourself free when you're trapped in a wreck. And I'm handing that to the Cleveland Browns because they are officially in emergency extraction mode, getting themselves out of this Deshaun Watson deal. But I thought they had a really nice draft. They moved down from 6 to 9, still got Spencer Fano, who I think they wanted to take a pick 6 anyway. And then they take KC Concepcion, Denzel Boston, 2 complementary wide receivers.
Good drafts, yeah.
And with that pick that they got from the trade back, they take Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, the safety out of Toledo, who I think has got a lot of upside too. Then they had 6 other picks to play with. So slowly, their GM, Andrew Barry, is getting the chance to work back and have another crack at building a roster with a new regime for the post-Deshaun Watson era. Jack.
Okay. Well, I think I'm going to go with a spoon in the first one, and we can't ignore the elephant in the room because there was heaps of discourse on our private chat with the Powder Keg boys about the strange press conference between Snead and McVay and the Los Angeles Rams. So I am giving the Los Angeles Rams a plastic spork because there's clearly something was going on between two of them here. And why am I giving them a plastic spork? Because a spork very naturally tries to do two things at once, right? It tries to be a spoon and a fork at the same time. And that is exactly the Ty Simpson pick at number 13. It does neither well, right? You're trying to, future planning, but you're also trying to maintain current contention. So, and the spork, when you've actually got a plastic one and you're trying to eat something that needs a fork, it's not strong enough. If you've got something that's a spoon, it just snaps. So for me, they're still in this really weird place with Matthew Stafford, but yet you've spent a pick 13 on a QB. Who's that? He was not too bad. Unfortunately, I think his career is going to be shrouded in all sorts of controversy over the next sort of 24 months. So hopefully he's got a high constitution, old Ty Simpson. But yeah, I'm giving the Rams a plastic spork because it's a tool. Yes, it's a fork. Yes, it's a spoon. But what are you doing? And it just looked weird. The damage control just was strange after coming out. Multiple secret meetings, etc. I don't know. You could go down a whole rabbit hole. Rams, you get a spork. Sorry.
Yep, fair enough. I tend to agree with you. Not great for the optics, that one. On to knives for me, and I'm going with a dagger. And the dagger is John Harbaugh. And he's coming to the Giants, and they go, yep, we're going to take Arvell Reese, and we're going to make this defense some scary stuff. And then we're going to go and take Francis Mauangoa, offensive tackle at 10 after the Dexter Lawrence trade. Colton Hood I like as corner. Maybe they didn't address the sort of replacement interiorly for Dexter Lawrence, but I think you're going to get some production out of Arvell Reese, who I think was Dane Brugler's number one overall player. So great draft for the Giants. Big knives for them.
Nice, Andy. I agree. They are turning that thing around. I'm going to give a couple more knives before I get on to some spoons. So my knife on this one is a sacrificial ahame, a ritualistic, double-edged Shakespearean dagger used to settle betrayals. I'm handing this to the Terrell family. Cornerback Avion Terrell from Clemson. Ryan's a big fan. He gets drafted by the Atlanta Falcons with pick 48, where he is going to join his brother, of course, AJ Terrell. Now, I used to work with my brother at a law firm for a few years. Sounds good in principle, but we'll see how fun it is when the Terrell brothers are fighting over a roster spot one day in the future, and if one of them has to pull out the sacrificial ahame to win that final spot. So that is my second knife, Jack.
I'll go to the knife drawer now, and I'm giving out a pirate cutlass. And you might think where this is going. This is going to none other than Reuben Bain Jr. and the Buccaneers, because not only did the Buccaneers draft an edge in Reuben Bain, who was extremely scary on draft night, didn't even pause to put the hat on, just walked straight past.
That's a business
Gave
man.
Commissioner Goodell a hug that probably cracked a few vertebrae in the old redhead there. But they've drafted a guy who I think is going to be utterly, utterly terrifying. He didn't like that he fell. The character issues are going to be something, but Tampa Bay, generally speaking, are pretty good. You think of guys with Jason Pierre-Paul. You think of going back to the days when Gruden was there. Generally, as an organization, they're pretty good at harnessing those guys, just as an entire sort of organization. So, I'd be terrified lining up against Reuben Bain Jr. on a Sunday afternoon. Pirate Cutlass to Reuben Bain. Good on you. All the best to you.
Nice. I'm going to give a bit of a soup spoon to the Raiders, the Chargers, and the Broncos, because it really pains me to feel the way I feel about the Chiefs draft. They have replaced a lot of question marks at cornerback by trading up to get Mansour Delane, and I understand why they did it, but they still managed to hang on to pick 29, and we've now been pushed into blind hatred of Peter Woods, who we all wanted really at 22. And then taking, excuse me, I seem to have lost my spot. Mason Thomas at edge as well to line up against Karl Loftus. So the offensive lines of AFC West opponents might just mean that Kansas City will not be an afterthought for some time to come. They are Spags guys, and it's going to be a bit of mayhem coming out of the Chiefs' defensive front.
Nice
So a
one,
spoon
Andy.
for all their rivals.
Yep, the Chiefs were going to be a knife for me as well, so we're on the same page. My last knife I'm going to give out is the kukri, legendary inwardly curved blade of the Nepalese Gurkhas. It's famous for being a hybrid weapon.
Done a bit of ChatGPT, have you?
It is.
Just a bit. Just a little. It was actually Google Gemini, boys. You mentioned it earlier.
It's our sponsor.
Jack, we've entered the era of the hybrid tight end. And the NFL is copying Sean McVay. You know, multiple tight end sets are in vogue. At least 33% of snaps last year, teams had at least 2 tight ends on the field. And in this draft, we had 8 tight ends taken on day 2, tied for the most since 1970. And 21 tight ends taken between rounds 2 and 7, also tied for the most since 1970. Lots of blocking tight ends in particular, so the league is changing. Offenses want to take advantage of these smaller defensive backs. It's always a pendulum, and it's swinging towards the tight end, brothers.
See, I'm going to give a spoon for that exact reason, Alistair. I'm giving a baby spoon to all those teams that perhaps reached on a couple of those tight ends. And you know why it's a baby spoon? Because how do babies learn? They imitate. And we sometimes think that imitation is not how you learn best. There's only one Sean McVay. There is only one Shanahan. Okay, that's 2 of them. And if you try and do something and try to imitate them and try and take stuff off when you don't know the concepts well, and you draft these guys because you think they're going to fit and you think you're going to change, you think you're going to do it, you ain't reading until you're 10, brother. You failed grade 1. Out. You fail. So for me, I think some teams are drafting like they're accessorizing, but McVay builds teams precisely to his offensive mind, which is 1 in a million. So those teams that reached, I think, baby spoon for you. Because you're still a baby, you're an infant. Bah, 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 bah.
My final installment and knife goes to Brandon Bean. Copped a lot of heat on day 1 of the draft. There's obviously some needs. Another weapon for Josh Allen might have been nice at pick 29 or 28, wherever they selected. But they started the draft in arguably a worse position than the Chargers with 5 picks. They had just about bugger all in the top 100. So Brandon Bean shuffles back a couple of times, still manages to land TJ Parker, who had, for most, a first-round grade, and then adds some pieces, cornerback, taking Skylar Bell in the 4th, and then Jalen Kilgore in the 5th, the safety out of South Carolina. I think they added in a situation that's quite cap tight. I think Brandon Bean did quite well, and as I expressed to my colleague at work, who's a Bills fan and passionate, and on day 1 was going, "What's this guy doing?" I said to him, sometimes it's hard to go into the toy store and not buy a shiny new bike. Sometimes you just got to go back and accept that, you know, when your birthday comes, presents will arrive. And he did some wheeling and dealing, and I think he's done a good service to the Bills.
Nice. Or you just find it on Facebook Marketplace, like Jack with some of this elite gear. You don't need to pay the top-notch price, fresh out of the freshly unwrapped plastic. Sounds like you're out of cutlery, Andy. So I'm going to end with it. I was thinking about knives, and I was going to give one to the Steelers and one to the Patriots and their fans. I'm going to end with 2 spoons. One, I can't go a show or a season without mentioning our old head coach, Brandon Staley, and I'm giving him the Rogaine hair regrowth applicator to rub on that bald patch. Because just when he was getting his career back on track, taking a bunch of mediocre talent and making them top 10 or 15 last year. I thought, well, now this is going to be the time where they give him some weapons. But in free agency, they signed nobody. And then in the draft, Kellen Moore's just gone, cool. Jordan Tyson, Oscar Delp, Jeremiah Wright, Bryce Lance, and only one defensive player taken with the first 5 picks. So Kellen Moore has gone, Tyler Shug, we're setting you up. And this year...
This is my house.
This is my house, and I'm not getting fired if we're no good. If the defense is crap, I want to be able to pull the fire the DC lever before I'm in the hot seat. Jack, sorry, I'm going to go my last one because this triggered me. I'm handing out a hand-carved primitive dough scraper to represent the anti-intellectual times we're living in at the moment, and the football discourse around the consensus board debate that's emerged following the draft. For the listeners who don't know, a Sports Illustrated 49ers beat reporter pointed out to John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan quite boldly, how do you feel that you guys keep reaching against the consensus board? You keep taking players way higher than where the consensus board has them. They didn't like that at all. They said, well, we had consensus in this locker room and we take the best players. The consensus board is essentially a composite board of 100 media people out there, some very smart ones, Jeremiah, Barugla, all these guys. And it's based on the wisdom of the crowd that if you get 100 guys who submit their top 300 players and take the average, you're going to have a pretty good sense of where that player belongs. And rightly, NFL teams will say, well, we have more information than you guys out in the media. So when you guys say we should have taken this player, well, we didn't like him for character reasons or injury or whatever else. And I think that's fine. But the opposite of that is a problem. If you're reaching for players against the consensus, say you get a guy at pick 50 where
Like
the
another
consensus
round 3
board,
running back.
yeah, like where the consensus board has them at pick 100 or something. I think what you should do with that as a GM, and Eric DaCosta does it really well, is to say, if we value this guy way higher than the consensus board seems to, maybe we can play the game a little bit. And that means instead of taking him there, we can trade back and maybe he'll still be there a little bit later. Whereas teams like the Niners and the Jags just keep on getting their guys, even if they're rounds ahead of where consensus has them. We will see who's right, Jack. It helps when you have Kyle Shanahan calling the plays.
Just before you finish up, Jack, wasn't there something released about like a high usage of AI by the 49ers? And maybe ChatGPT's just gone into the deep fake and just gone, hey, Kalen Black, 3rd round.
Yeah.
Do it.
Gosh. My last bit of cutlery is a disposable spoon, and I'm giving it to, and this only happens every now and again, but veteran mid-level.
You're picnicking today.
I am, but edge rushers, because a deep edge group entering the league, and this was a relatively deep edge group, means that the veteran rotational rushers that are still on that free agent, they're going to see their market really, really squeezed. Great for us to pick up some people if we need, but I think those older guys, dare I say, people like your Joey Bosa's and things like that, they're going to be sort of disposable. They're going to be on rosters, but they're not going to be maybe being paid what they were maybe a year or so ago. But it's a great edge group. We got one of the best in Mesidor, so very happy about that. And that's it.
Yep. Had plenty more. It was all just going to be low blows at like the Cardinals and
the Patriots.
The expectations on Carson Beck. Poor guy.
And insider reporting? I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm leaving that way away. How dare you miss day 3? Oh, golly. It's good. Couldn't happen to a better team.
Exactly. Cheaters.
Sorry, guys. A little bit of a longer show today. We had initially planned for 5 draft picks and ended up having to talk about 8 and waffling in between. We had heaps of fun doing this, as we always do. We hope you did as well. Please drop your comments, your thoughts, your disagreements, your agreements in the comments below. We're going to take a little bit of time off.
Andy, there was something I just wanted to say, sorry. I just want to say one of our long-time listeners has been going through some difficult personal stuff at the minute, and just wanted to give him a shout out while respecting his privacy. We're thinking about him and his family. He's an awesome contributor and we listen to him a lot. So we're thinking of you, buddy. And I also want to thank all of the listeners and people on X who've been really engaging with a lot of our stuff. It makes it worthwhile for me putting all this effort into watching All 22, where we're getting consistently positive feedback. We're only growing. Our content's only going to get better. So thanks to all of you out there who've supported us. Soon to be entering into our 5th season of doing this. And it's so cool where we are, seeing Jack do all this amazing stuff, audio, visually. It's a lot of fun doing it with you two guys. I love it.
Yeah, well said, man. Yeah, we've decided to exercise our 5th year option for season 2026.
Well, do we get paid 18 mil?
Yeah, that's right.
One day. Well, guys, we're going to take a little bit of time off as the off season develops. We'll be back kind of June, July to do our TDU guest series. So be well, look after each other, and we'll see you next time on the Thunder Down Under Chargers podcast.
Back pedals looking, firing. He's got Floyd turning. Got it! Zigzag, 10, 5, high step, touchdown! San Diego!
Woo! Good night! Good night to all!